Sri Lanka Budget 2025, path to recovery or a fiscal gamble? Role of vehicle imports in economic revival. Sri Lanka and Japan, strengthening bilateral ties. Sri Lanka tourism, current situation. Welcome to Biz Digest, the leading platform for business insights, economic analysis and financial updates. As a premier forum for business leaders and private sector heads, we bring you in-depth discussions, expert opinions and exclusive interviews with key decision makers. Stay informed with the latest market trends, corporate developments and major business events shaping the global economy. From breaking business news to in-depth coverage of finance and industry, Biz Digest keeps you ahead in the world of commerce. Sri Lanka Budget 2025, a path to recovery or a fiscal gamble? The deficit, standing at Rs 2,200 billion or 6.7% of GDP, presents a critical challenge. But the real question is, can Sri Lanka achieve the ambitious revenue projections, or are we looking at yet another fiscal disappointment? The government aims to collect Rs 885 billion in additional tax revenue, a 22% increase from 2024. But a significant Rs 300 billion of this target is expected from vehicle imports, an industry that has been stagnant for years. The balance is anticipated from improved tax administration and a projected 5% GDP growth. However, with past inefficiencies in tax collection, can these numbers hold up? Sri Lanka's reliance on domestic borrowing remains high. The government plans to finance Rs 2.1 trillion through non-bank borrowing, predominantly via treasury bonds. But here's the catch. Market experts warn of an unfavorable demand-supply balance. A couple of months ago, the topic of vehicle imports into the country became a massive discussion in the country amongst many people. And when we talk about this particular subject, we have to talk about a key figure, which is none other than Mr. Nimal Welgama, who is the chairman and the founder of Ideal Motors. He's been in the business for many decades and he's a pioneer in this industry if you were to ask anybody. So we had a very insightful interview with him and let's go check it out now. Good day to you all. Today we are here with Mr. Nalin Welgama, the founder and the executive chairman of Ideal Group and Ideal Motors. How are you today, Mr. Nalin?
Oh, I'm very well, Lakshani. Thank you very much.
Lovely to hear that. So, Ms. Nalin, there's a colorful history about you and your journey. So, Mr. Nalin, to begin with, I would love to ask you regarding the current process of vehicle assembly in Sri Lanka, and also regarding the challenges companies as Ideal Motors face.
Yeah, actually, it's a very good question. Right now in Sri Lanka, we have around 17 assemblers who are registered with the Ministry of Industries in a manufacturing bond process.
Okay.
So it all started in early years, year 2000 onwards, but it was not very organized. And we entered the assembly arena with Mahindra in 2018-2019, where we partnered Mahindra and there was an investment from them, a direct for indirect investment. And we started our plant in Valipanna where we were assembling a compact car and subsequently a light truck. So we've had a lot of assistance, technical assistance from Mahindra because they were in charge of the plant for the first few years. But then our boys were very competent and they were thrilled with the outcome. And they actually gave the entire running of the plant to the local to the locals. That's us.
I see.
So we are, our products are as good as the products that are made in India by Mahindra. So in 2021, there was this standard operating procedure which was introduced by the then Minister for Industries, Bimal Veeravansa, who did a yeoman service to this industry, actually, I must say. And he introduced these standard operating procedures through a cabinet-appointed committee. And since then, so since the entry of Mahindra, all the other big brands followed, like Hyundai, TVS, Bajaj, Tata, Ashok Leyland, who's been there for a while earlier.
All the big names.
All the big names
Right.
followed. So right now we have most of the big auto majors in Sri Lanka in the assembly industry. And the SOP has given some legal credence where we can now, there's a format to follow, although it's a little arduous, but we've been doing a great job. And primarily, the creation of the assembly has given an impetus to an ecosystem that has been created around it through component manufacturers in Sri Lanka. So the component manufacturers feed this industry with various components which are deleted from the kit that we import, which we localize with the where the auto major certifies certain aspects of components which can be localized, like batteries, tires, bumpers, all sorts of things. There are fuel tanks, exhausts, side steps, the list goes on and on.
Sounds very
So these fabricators, these industries become original equipment manufacturers. If it's Bajaj, then they become original equipment manufacturer for Bajaj.
Okay.
If it's for Mahindra, they become original equipment manufacturer for Mahindra. So this is very important for Sri Lanka because this industry was almost non-existent. But now they have improved to the world stage with the accreditation from the auto majors. So this gives us an opportunity in Sri Lanka to access the lucrative Indian market. So these are the real spillovers where we can take advantage of the situation. Because Chennai is called the Detroit of India. Chennai is our neighbor.
Yeah.
So we have very good accessibility to Tamil Nadu, to Chennai. And Tamil Nadu is a very vibrant place in the automobile industry. So we can actually access this market through these component manufacturers.
Right.
And if the government can pave the way through the FTA, the free trade agreement we have with India, to access the Indian market, then that opens up a whole new vista, a whole new possibility of export potential for our products. So that's the real benefit of assembly in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Because although we started at a very rudimentary stage, it has now taken shape and there are 17 assemblers. And if you take the motorcycle industry, all the big names are here. Bajaj, TVS, I think even Yamaha might be coming on board. So they can actually cater to most of the requirements of the Sri Lankan market, because Sri Lankan market is very small.
Yes.
If you take the entire vehicle population in Sri Lanka, which is registered with the RMV, we have about 8.5 million, 85 lakhs. So out of that, nearly 5 million, 50 lakhs are motorcycles. And another 13 lakhs are three-wheelers.
Yeah.
So that takes up 6.3 million. So you're looking at 2 million of other registrations, including cars, SUVs, dual-purpose vehicles, trucks, lorries, farm tractors, whatever you call it.
The list goes
So
on.
it's a small segment.
Yes.
It's a small vehicle park. So we have to look at outside of Sri Lanka, and particularly from the component manufacture. So we have to start somewhere, and that's where we are at the moment. And we've been doing so well in creating this buzz So until now, we have hit a bit of a roadblock, which I'll talk about later.
Okay.
But that's where we are at the moment.
Okay. So since you said about this roadblock, I would like to pose another question.
Yeah.
Regarding the challenges, coming back to that topic, has it been better since you started when it comes to the process of assembling vehicles here? Are things improving?
Actually, from the time the standard operating procedure was introduced, the Ministry of Industries has been very helpful. The officials they work hand in glove with us. You know, they do an excellent job in supporting this industry. And of course, the IDB, the Industrial Development Board, are also very helpful in determining various components, their suitability, pricing, etc. So it's been a progressive path all the way. But of course, the present government are keen, I know, to migrate from a market economy to a production economy. Because if you take Sri Lanka, post 1977, when we opened our gates, you know, and we went into liberalization of trade, there was no real control. You know, we lost most of our industries because the imported products were far cheaper than the products that we could make here in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So we lost most of the production base, which was not a good thing to do. Whereas India always protects the local industries.
Yeah, they do.
You know,
Yeah.
and even Trump at the present time, he is also very protective of the markets in the US. He's, you know, imposing high taxes on the Chinese products, where they try to dump those products in those markets. So he's very cautious. Same with Mr. Modi, Narendra Modi.
Which is a smart move.
Which is a smart move, because you have to protect yourself first, you know, rather than import stuff. Because to import, you need foreign currency. So that's why we are in this mess. Right. You know, even a needle was imported from China. Needle and thread, for example, you know. So everything was imported because it was easy. Yeah. No one took the pain to look at this production economy, the manufacturing economy. But now I think things are changing. People are realizing the value of manufacturing economy, and I think the NPP government are very keen to do this. But of course, they've been only taken the reins only a few months ago, so they take a little bit of time to settle down. No, they need to settle down. But they are very supportive and they are interested in the production economy. But of course, certain measures that they have taken through the budget, and when they opened up the suspension that was imposed on the car imports earlier, there were a few misses here, lapses here and there, which, you know, we must expect. Nothing is perfect. So now we are lobbying the government to take some corrective action.
Definitely.
You know, now, for example, the local industries for which we have invested vast sums of money, resources and factories and capex and so on. We are being taxed at the almost the same rate as a completely built unit which you import. So there is no protection, there is no proper protection that has been afforded to the industry, the assembly industry. Even if you look at the motorcycle industry, the imported motorcycle and the assembled motorcycle, if you really compare, it's the same today. So it's easier for them to import rather than go through the pain of assembling it here. So it's the same with my situation, where I assemble a light truck, which is very, very popular here, the Bolero. The Bolero is absolutely number one product here in Sri Lanka. People yearn to have it, and that's a wonderful product. So But the problem is right now, as things stand, it is far cheaper for me to import it from Mahindra and Mahindra rather than assemble it in my plant. So, which is
it's
a real,
it's
it's a shame.
Yes,
it's a real shame.
Sure.
Because now I'm at that stage where I have to decide, and my financial team says, please forget the assembly for the moment. Keep it, pause for the moment until things improve, until the way is clear. Just let's import and sell, because it's so easy. You just import and off it goes.
Yes.
Whereas this process that we have developed, we have very good, resourceful people, talented pool of people, and they are all going to be faced with enormous difficulties, because if we are reduced to only a single product of a car, then the maths don't work out. So we are lobbying the government to be mindful of this and to ensure that they give the support that is needed by the assemblers here in Sri Lanka.
Right.
So that's where we are.
So that's where we stand. But Mr. Nalin, you just mentioned about a blockage earlier. You said you'll come back to it later. I would like for you to just, quickly.
This is the blockage that I was talking about, because
about.
that will create a huge issue for the vehicle assemblers here in Sri Lanka if they're not competitive.
Yeah.
Because the process takes very long, Lakshani.
Right.
Because we import a kit with certain deletions. The deletions are supplied locally. So the deletions which are supplied locally, we buy it from various vendors.
Right.
The kit goes into our bond, duty free.
Right.
But the various components we buy from vendors are not duty free, because the vendors import the raw material, then they transform it to the product that we need, and then they sell it to us with all the duties paid by them, captured in that.
Got it.
So we then add those components to the kit to make up the completed car. So you can't compare our situation with a completely built unit which arrives in the port,
Yes.
because that's completely duty free. That's coming in prior to the imposition of taxes.
And here you are
Here
taxed for.
I have a hybrid situation, if you like to call it that. That is, I have a proportion which comes in a kit that's duty free, but there's another proportion which is locally made, and that has been subjected to tax. And my cost when I complete the car, it's my factory cost. So my factory cost comprises of the kit, which is duty free, plus the component. So my cost is much higher than an imported car. So the imported car might cost, for example, 2 million. My factory cost is 3 million. So if you apply the present duty of say 30% on the 2 million car, I end up paying just for the duty 6 lakhs. Whereas if my car that I assemble locally is not 2 million but 3 million, then I pay 9 lakhs in duty. So there is that paradox that it's a huge problem, because I am paying tax on tax.
Yeah.
So they should be mindful of this and give me redress,
Yes.
make a correction, and apply the duty at least only on the imported kit, and not the duty paid components, because that's already subjected to the local duties. It's not a level playing field.
Yes.
So this is the conundrum that we are facing, and it's a huge issue.
Yes.
It's a huge issue.
Yes, and after listening to you, I feel that this is the biggest challenge this industry is facing. So,
and with that, Lakshani, it has a ripple effect. Because if we scale down, then what's going to happen to those component manufacturers? I mean, they have brought in, state-of-the-art machinery from overseas. I know a guy who's making a lot of the steel products.
Right.
He recently went to Germany and he imported a state-of-the-art machine with a robotic arm, etc., which cost him a fortune. And now, I met him last week. He said, "What am I going to do? If the scale is now reduced, which it looks like, what am I going to do? You know, I have a pool of resourceful people, I have invested in this machinery, I have a debt to pay to the banks. I mean, you know, this is all too crazy. So I said, yes, let's be patient,
And let's
you know,
see
and
how
let's
we
lobby
get
and
on.
take this case to the right people in the government and
Yes.
see whether we can make a correction, appropriate correction.
True.
So that's where we are at the moment, you know.
Since we had a very lengthy, very insightful discussion with Mr. Nimal Welgama, we decided to carry forward the rest of the discussion to the next week. Role of vehicle imports in economic revival. After 5 long years, Sri Lanka welcomes its first and second shipments of personal use motor vehicles at the Colombo port, a symbol of economic recovery or a risky gamble on stability. Among the first arrivals, 6 pickup trucks from Thailand, ordered by private importers, and thereafter 196 vehicles from Japan. This is just the beginning. By March, vehicles of all categories will be available for purchase. A brand new 2024 Rocco double cab pickup is now priced between 25 to 25.5 million rupees, significantly lower than the 32.5 million rupee price tag of its 2020 counterpart, a 2024 Wagoner or Alto, available for 6 to 6.5 million rupees, cheaper than the last December's 7.5 million. But are these prices truly affordable? Despite the easing of restrictions, demand remains lukewarm. The high price tags, coupled with economic uncertainties, have kept many buyers on the sidelines. Even motorcycles, once a budget-friendly option, now cost over 1.2 million rupees. Sri Lanka has opened letters of credit worth just $82 million, only 8% of the allocated $1 billion budget. Yet, vehicle imports are expected to generate 396 billion rupees in tax revenue, contributing 1.2% to the GDP, a crucial component of the 2025 budget. The ban imposed in 2020 was a desperate move to curb foreign exchange outflows, leading to inflation and a severe balance of payment crisis. Today, the nations tread a fine line between economic recovery and financial risk. Sri Lanka and Japan strengthening bilateral ties. Sri Lanka is looking towards Japan for investment and renewed cooperation, aiming to strengthen bilateral ties. In a recent high-profile meeting, President Anurukumara Dissanayake and Japanese Ambassador Akio Isomata discussed key projects and future collaborations. Sri Lanka is looking towards Japan for investment and renewed cooperation, aiming to strengthen bilateral ties. In a recent high-profile meeting, President Anurukumara Dissanayake and Japanese Ambassador Akio Isomata discussed key projects and future collaborations. Amid efforts to rebuild relations, Japan has extended an invitation to President Dissanayake, signaling a commitment to deeper engagement. Talks focused on diplomatic ties, economic investment, and joint reconciliation initiatives involving Japan, Switzerland, and South Africa. With around 60 Japanese companies operating in Sri Lanka, investments have surpassed $350 million, creating over 12,000 jobs. Key sectors include the digital economy, airport infrastructure, and manufacturing. Japan has also played a crucial role in Sri Lanka's industrial growth, dating back to the 1970s. Infrastructure remains a core focus. The Jaya Container Terminal, initially funded by Japan, and the East Container Terminal faced delays due to policy changes and economic crisis. However, renewed efforts are now underway, with Sri Lanka, Japan, and India collaborating on the West Container Terminal under a public-private partnership model. Sri Lanka tourism current situation. Welcome to Sri Lanka, the pearl of the Indian Ocean, a land of breathtaking landscapes, rich history, and warm hospitality. Tourism has long been a key pillar of the nation's economy, And as we enter 2025, we take a closer look at the industry's latest developments, challenges, and future prospects. Tourism has long been a key pillar of the nation's economy. And as we enter 2025, we take a closer look at the industry's latest developments, challenges, and future prospects. Sri Lanka welcomed approximately 210,184 tourists in the first 2 months of 2025, reflecting a steady rise in arrivals. January saw 102,545 visitors, while February recorded 107,639, reinforcing a positive trend in the tourism sector. India remains the top source market for Sri Lanka's tourism, followed closely by Russia and the United Kingdom. These travelers contribute significantly to the country's tourism earnings, which reached $400.7 million in January 2025, an increase from $362.1 million in December 2024 and $341.8 million in January 2024. The average daily spending of tourists in Sri Lanka varies greatly depending on travel style. Budget travelers spend approximately $30 per day. Mid-range tourists spend around $80 per day. Luxury travelers can spend upwards of $200 per day. While backpacker tourism is on the rise, it does not necessarily translate into a higher tourism earnings. Backpackers who typically spend less make up a significant portion of arrivals. Authorities are now focusing on attracting high-end tourists who can contribute more significantly to the economy. The government's goal is to increase the average daily tourist spending from $190 to $410 by the end of the year. By diversifying our tourism offerings and promoting high-end experiences, Sri Lanka aims to generate around $3 billion in tourism revenue in 2025. Don't miss out keeps you ahead in the business world. Tune in on every Sunday